August 1966, on a quiet hillside outside the Brazilian city of Niterói, two men climbed a steep trail known as Vintém Hill. They carried raincoats, a bottle of water, and strange handmade lead masks. A few days later, their bodies were discovered lying side by side on the hill. There were no signs of violence, no struggle, no injuries. But investigators did find something else, a small notebook. Inside, it was a cryptic message that read, 1630, be at the specified location. 1830, ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals. Wait for the mass signal. No one knows what those instructions meant, and nearly 60 years later, the mystery of the lead mask case remains unsolved. This is one of the strangest unexplained deaths ever recorded. The two victims were Miguel José Viana and Manoel Pereira da Cruz. Both were electronics technicians from the Brazilian town of Campos dos Goitacazes, about 170 miles away from Rio de Janeiro. They were considered intelligent and technically skilled. Friends described them as quiet, curious men who spent much of their time working with electronics and radio equipment. But they also shared another interest, spiritualism. During the 1960s, spiritualist beliefs were extremely popular in Brazil. Some groups believed that technology and spiritual forces could be combined to contact higher beings. Miguel and Manoel were known to experiment with homemade electronics and unusual devices, and it appears that their final journey may have been connected to one of those experiments. On August 17, 1966, the two men told their families they were leaving for a business trip. Before departing, Manoel gave his wife a very specific instruction. He told her, "If something happens to me, please take care of the children." It seemed like an odd statement, but no one thought much of it at the time. The two men traveled by bus to the city of Niterói, near Rio de Janeiro. Along the way, they made several stops. One stop would later become important to investigators. At a small shop in Niterói, they purchased two raincoats, but the weather that day was warm and sunny. There was no rain in the forecast. Why they bought the coats remains unexplained. Later that afternoon, the men were seen climbing Vintém Hill, a remote wooded area overlooking the city. That was the last time they were seen alive. 3 days later, on August 20th, a young boy flying a kite spotted something unusual on the hillside. Two bodies lying in the grass. Authorities were called immediately. When police arrived, they found a strange scene. Miguel and Manoel were lying side by side. Both were dressed in formal suits. Both were wearing the raincoats they had purchased earlier. But the strangest detail of all, each man wore a pair of thick lead masks over their eyes. The masks looked like crude goggles made from sheets of metal. They covered the eyes, but had no openings to see through. Investigators had never seen anything like it. As police examined the scene, they discovered several objects nearby. One of them was an empty water bottle. Another was a small notebook. Inside that notebook were the mysterious instructions. The note read, 1630, be at the specified location. 1830, ingest capsules. After the effect, protect metals. Wait for mask signal. No one knew what the message meant. Even stranger, police never found the capsules mentioned in the note. They also found no signs of poison in the bodies, no injuries, no trauma, No evidence of a struggle. The official autopsy results were inconclusive. Because of the heat and time that had passed, toxicology tests were never completed. In other words, authorities could not determine how the men died. When investigators first arrived at Vintém Hill, they immediately realized this case was unlike anything they had encountered before. The scene raised more questions than answers. Miguel and Manoel were lying peacefully on the grass, as if they had simply laid down to rest. There were no defensive wounds, no blood, no signs of violence. Nothing suggested a struggle had taken place. But there was one detail that deeply puzzled investigators. Both men had been carefully positioned side by side. It looked almost deliberate, as if they had chosen the exact spot where they would lie down. Police began searching the surrounding hillside for additional clues. They combed the area for footprints, discarded objects, or anything that might indicate another person had been present. But the search produced almost nothing. No signs of a third individual. No evidence of robbery. Their money was still in their pockets. Their watches were still on their wrists. Even the water bottle found nearby appeared untouched. The men had simply arrived on the hill and died. One of the most frustrating aspects of the case involves the capsules mentioned in the notebook. The note clearly instructed the men to ingest them at 1830, but investigators never found any capsules at the scene, nor did they discover any containers or packaging that might have held them. This created a major problem for the investigation. Without the capsules, authorities could not determine what substances the men might have taken. And because toxicology testing was never completed, the exact cause of death remained unknown. Some investigators believe the capsules may have contained a powerful chemical compound. Others suspected they might have been hallucinogenic drugs. If the men had ingested a dangerous substance, it might explain why they collapsed without signs of violence. But there was another possibility. Someone else could have removed the capsules after their deaths. If that were true, it would suggest that a third person may have been involved after all. Yet once again, there was no evidence to support that theory. The capsules simply vanished from the story, and with them, any chance of understanding exactly what happened on that hill. As news of the mysterious death spread, several local residents came forward with unusual stories. Some claimed they had seen strange lights hovering over Vintém Hill on the evening the men disappeared. One witness described a bright object in the sky that appeared to glow with unusual colors. Another said the light seemed to move silently above the hill before suddenly disappearing. At the time, Brazil was experiencing a wave of reported UFO sightings. In fact, the region around Rio de Janeiro had been the site of multiple unexplained aerial phenomena during the 1960s. Some investigators wondered if Miguel and Manoel might have chosen the hill specifically because of these sightings. Perhaps they believed the location held some kind of significance. However, these witness reports were never officially confirmed. Police could not determine whether the lights were aircraft, atmospheric phenomena, or simply misidentified stars. Still, the timing of the sightings added another eerie layer to an already baffling case. Two men climb a remote hill wearing strange metal masks, and on the same night, witnesses report mysterious lights in the sky above them. Coincidence? Or something far stranger? But perhaps the most unsettling element of the entire case was the object that gave the mystery its name: the masks. When investigators examined them closely, they realized these were not ordinary goggles or protective equipment. They were hand-cut sheets of solid lead, carefully shaped to fit over the eyes and upper face. The masks resembled something between welding goggles and a blindfold made from metal. But there was something deeply strange about their design. They had no lenses, no glass, no eye holes, nothing that would allow the wearer to see through them. Once the masks were placed over the face, the wearer would be left in complete darkness. This detail immediately confused investigators. Why would someone climb a steep hillside wearing something that completely blocked their vision? And why were both men wearing them at the moment of their deaths? Police began examining the masks more closely. The metal appeared to have been carefully cut and shaped by hand, likely using basic tools. They were not professionally manufactured. Instead, they looked like homemade devices. This suggested that Miguel and Manoel had likely built the masks themselves before traveling to Vintém Hill. But that discovery only created another question. What were they meant to protect against? Some investigators proposed that the masks may have been designed to shield the eyes from intense light. Lead is known to block certain forms of radiation. In scientific environments, lead is sometimes used to protect against powerful energy sources. If the men believed they were about to witness something extremely bright, the masks might have been intended as protection. Others suggested a more symbolic explanation. Perhaps the masks were meant to block out the physical world, allowing the men to focus on some kind of spiritual or psychological experience. In that case, the darkness created by the masks might have been part of a ritual. But no one could say for certain, because the men never had the chance to explain what the masks were truly for. And the silent pieces of metal left behind on that hillside offered no answers, only more mystery. One of the most famous theories involves UFOs. During the 1960s, Brazil experienced a wave of reported UFO sightings. Vintém Hill itself had been linked to strange lights in the sky. Some UFO researchers believe Miguel and Manoel were attempting to contact extraterrestrial beings. According to this theory, the men ingested capsules as part of a spiritual or experimental ritual. However, there is no solid evidence connecting the men to UFO activity, but the theory continues to capture the imagination of many investigators. Another explanation focuses on the men's interest in spiritualism. Some researchers believe Miguel and Manoel were attempting to induce a supernatural experience. The capsules mentioned in the note may have been some kind of psychedelic or chemical compound. The masks could have been designed to block outside light and help them focus during a trance. If the experiment went wrong, it could explain why the men died unexpectedly. But without the missing capsules, this theory can never be proven. A darker theory suggests the men may have been involved in something illegal. Some investigators believe they may have been participating in a secret experiment or fraud scheme involving electronics and spiritual devices. Others think they may have been tricked or poisoned by someone else. But there is no evidence of robbery, no sign of a third person, and no witnesses who saw anyone else on the hill. Nearly 60 years later, the case remains one of Brazil's strangest unsolved mysteries. Two men, a remote hillside, a cryptic note filled with instructions no one fully understands, and the strange metal eye coverings they wore, devices whose purpose has never been explained. What really happened on that hill? Did Miguel and Manoel believe they were about to witness something extraordinary? Were they carrying out a dangerous experiment? Or did something happen that investigators simply failed to uncover? There were no signs of violence, no clear cause of death, and no answers, only questions. Left behind on a quiet hillside where whatever happened that night was never seen again. Only this and nothing more. If you enjoy strange mysteries and forgotten stories, consider subscribing. Until the next mystery, this has been A Raven's Tale.